What's up, everyone? Tonight we do something a little different. It's like a video reaction, but it's more of a story time thing, a ghost story. Now, I recently seen a video off of Marlo's house. Check out that channel. The narrator Darren Marlo, and that's what we have playing behind us. So he is gonna play some stories that I found interesting because he talks about where we're from, South Dakota, and I'm gonna react and give my opinion on that. So the video that we're gonna react to is Walking Sam of Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. So check that video out, and we're gonna get into it. And I fast forwarded it to the part that I wanted to talk about, and it's 5 minutes in, and we're gonna let it play.
One very eerie phantom that is said to have long prowled the region of the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota is a mysterious, dark shadow figure known to wander about in the night on inscrutable errands. Commonly called Walking Sam, as well as Big Man and Tall Man, this entity is said to be around 7 feet in height, with a lanky build, long arms, and a face devoid of any facial features, although descriptions can vary. In some cases, the apparition is said to have 2 glowing red eyes. In others, he is described as wearing what appears to be a cloak or a stovepipe hat, while in others, still, it is merely an amorphous humanoid shadow. One weird description of the...
Okay, so let me stop that right there. Now, where we come from, there is a ghost that people have seen, and it's been around for as long as I remember. But a lot of elders have said it. A lot of kids I knew going to school around the communities, they would say they see this tall man, and he does fit this description. And I've never ever heard it referred to as Walking Sam. They always said the tall man. That's about it. They describe it as him wearing a top hat like Abraham Lincoln and a long trench coat. Now, some of the elders have told stories and says he gets taller as he walks up to you. But the craziest thing is not just in our reservation, it's every reservation in America has the similar ghost stories. And if you know any Native Americans, Mapwood tribe, if you get comfortable with them enough, they will tell you. And they will tell you some eerie shit. So let's get back in the video.
The entity was written of in Peter Mathiason's 1983 book about Pine Ridge called The Spirit of Crazy Horse, in which he gives an account by a Lakota medicine man thus. There is your big man standing there, ever waiting, ever present, like the coming of a new day. He is both spirit and real being, but he can also glide through the forest, like a moose with big antlers, as though the trees weren't there. I know him as my brother. I want him to touch me, just a touch, a blessing, something I could bring home to my sons and grandchildren, that I was there, that I approached him, and he touched me.
Let me stop that part. So, just like what he says, a lot of people will say it looks like this guy does not have legs, so it looks like he's floating, so he moves fast. And that's kind of like what he was talking about. He's walking like there were no trees there.
This wandering wraith is speculated to be everything from a ghost to a demon to some supernatural figure, such as a skinwalker or shadow person. But in every case, it is described as being distinctly evil. Sometimes it is seen merely wandering aimlessly about, as if searching for something. At other times, it has been seen walking along roads, even hitchhiking, and in more sinister reports, it is said to kidnap people to carry them away into the night.
Okay. So yeah, there is a lot of stories on South Dakota. It doesn't matter which part of the reservation you're at. People who drive late at night have encountered some spooky, weird shit. And it won't be the first time you hear a ghost story like that, or a last. And there are a lot of times where people actually see spirits, like a ghost running with the car right beside it, even if they're driving at top speed. So yeah, that thing, I can verify that, yeah, this is true. It is something that's common where we live, but it's said to only come around if there are a bad atmosphere. If people are doing stuff they're not supposed to. So if people, because being Native American, you're supposed to be spiritual, religious, humble. Most of all, you gotta keep your body clean. You gotta be pure. But today, a lot of people don't practice that. So there's a lot of people that are into drugs and alcohol, and I mean heavy drinking alcohol to the point of cirrhosis, and it creates a bad element, a bad vibes, and that's what draws these bad spirits that come around. That's why people see them. And if they're seen like that in the communities, because the whole community's atmosphere is like that.
And also, what I would like to point out as well, and also when he mentioned that people thought it was like a skinwalker, or like a shadow person, what he would mean by that. In many parts around the world, people have encountered this entity as well. What he described as like a tall shadow person wearing like a dark black hat on top of its head. And yes, they described that it was all covered in black, and they thought that maybe this thing was meant to like bring death. Because yes, in other cultures as well, where people believe that when you see like a dark figure like that, it brings death, or maybe it's coming there for someone who is about to die.
Yeah, and like the elders would say, when you encounter spirits like that, those are warnings. It's warning you to either straighten up in your life because you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing, and you need to get on the right track, or it's warning you that somebody in your family is going to get really sick or die. And a lot of times that people who've seen like supernatural stuff is because whatever religion they come from, you got to get back to that and start practicing that. Otherwise, you're going to keep seeing a lot more of this stuff, and it's going to mess with you. It's going to mess with your mentality to the point where you're in a nut house. So let's play a little more and see what he has to say.
In every case, it is seen as a menacing, malevolent entity to be avoided. One possible account of Walking Sam comes from a witness who was driving one evening just outside of Eagle Butte, South Carolina, when he was allegedly confronted by two frightening beings described as being
South Dakota,
translucent
not South
and
Carolina.
with hideous visages. He would bizarrely describe the entities as it was glowing like a real dim light bulb. You can see through it. Eyes were size of human. Really long nose, long in length. It has a really big mouth. Its arms were like sticks. They were parallel to each other. The two sticks looked like they were glowing. It was around 4 foot tall, but its arms stretched. The other one, on the left-hand side of the road, had a face like a beast. Horrifying, ugly, looked wrinkly. Walked like a squat about the size of a goat. It was glowing too, reddish brown. It was wide and narrow.
Now, let me pause that real quick. Okay, let me explain that most people, a lot of young kids today, have always said that is Slender Man. And I keep telling them, no, Slender Man don't exist. It actually started off a Twitter page and it took off. And they think it exists because there are similar stories to that. And just don't want to create any confusions. Now, as you can hear him say that it's slouched like a goat. Not a lot of people that have seen the tall man have told me that they could see his face because they could never see his face. It's always like a shadow. But there is a thing called the goat man. And yes, I've said it. Goat man. Half goat. And I've been on so many reservations too, and they all see it too. So he sounds like a goat. And once again, they're warnings telling you better straighten up, you better get on the right track, or warning that it's like an omen, bad omen, like the white owl is towards us. It means somebody in your family is gonna die. It's a warning. And a lot of times that I've known people that have encountered, such spooky, entities, with maybe within a week, one of their loved ones passed away. Okay, and see.
Even weirder than this confusing description, one of the creatures apparently phased into the witness's car and rode along with him in the passenger seat for several miles before vanishing into thin air.
Oh yeah, I've heard that
Another
too.
report was from someone who reached out to me in response to my own experience with a roving band of strange individuals who claimed that he had had a somewhat similar experience, this time in South Dakota, not far from the Pine Ridge Reservation, in fact. He claimed that he'd been driving along at night and that he had seen a dark, hunched-over form pacing about at the side of the road. He seemed to be hitchhiking. When he pulled over, he'd been met with the sight of a very tall, lanky man dressed in a cloak and top hat who did not have a face, and who approached the vehicle to demand to be let in and given a ride, even banging on the side of the vehicle. The witness drove off in a panic, and when he later relayed his experiences to locals, he was told that this was Walking Sam, the tall man. This was indeed the account that spurred me to look into this to begin with, as I had never heard of it before. It seems that in some recent accounts, the specter has been blamed as appearing to people in order to encourage them to commit suicide. In 2009, teenagers on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation began to report of being approached by a very tall, wraith-like, shadowy figure.
Alright, so a lot of this has happened to a lot of people. Yes, things that do bump in the night, literally bump in the night. So with him saying that something hits his car. My grandparents used to have a police scanner all the time too. You would never believe how many cops have reported that something banged on its car, and it happens a lot. I mean, you got to think of how old, how much history America has. All the people that died everywhere, all of the Native Americans that died.
And within that history as well, there's many ghost stories and many other legends that have been coming up as well.
Yeah, it's haunted. So things around the reservation, yeah, man, you know, if you don't practice your ways, it's like in our culture, we also got to smudge the house and cleanse the house. We keep our curtains open in the daytime, let sunlight in, keep the warmth, because you got to make the house feel like it's been lived in, otherwise you will draw evil spirits to it. And you got to pray. And today, a lot of natives are not doing it. They're just lost. So it brings more stuff like that to the point. I mean, ghosts are real. I don't care what anyone says. Come living out here and you'll see.
Which they claimed was Walking Sam, and who reportedly spoke to them and told them to kill themselves. During these encounters, the victims claimed that they had felt mysteriously compelled by the being's words, as if some command was worming into their brain to force them to bend to its will.
Yeah.
Many of the people of the area truly...
Yes. A lot has happened. They call that the suicide spirit. So, living on a reservation is a very rural area. I'm talking really rural. So much people that live there, they end up walking on the side of the road like it's down the street. But yeah, a lot of there really ain't much opportunity there. So what do the kids do? Participate in all the activities that go on, like drinking, partying, doing drugs, because they're bored out of their mind. And you actually go to some of these places, you feel like you're falling off the edge of the earth, because you feel like, wow, you're out in the middle of nowhere. You're literally out in the middle of nowhere in some of these places. So I can kind of sympathize why that, and a lot of them come from broken families because of alcoholism. So all of it is cause and effect. So I can see why they turn to drinking and all of that, and why they turn to suicide. And that's usually that spirit that thrives off of that energy.
Believe that this is more than just superstition and folklore, and that this is literally a real entity that is on some dark mission. One tribal elder made a statement during a tribal council meeting claiming that even the police knew of this phantom, which blogger Mike Crowley wrote of thus. The woman, who was elderly but otherwise quite lucid, described Walking Sam as a big man in a tall hat who has appeared around the reservation and caused young people to commit suicides. She said that Walking Sam has been picked up on the police scanners, but that the police have not been able to protect the community from him. She described him as a bad spirit. She wanted help from Washington with foot patrols for the tribal communities to protect them from Walking Sam. If any of this is true, then it apparently worked on at least some occasions, as throughout the years there were more suicides, and in 2013 there was a spate of 5 suicides on the reservation.
Okay, so yeah, I can confirm that. That is true. Back in '09, my grandparents would tell me there's a tall, dark shadow running through the community, and the tribal cops are aware of it. They chase it. It's not like they're gonna catch it, because it's a spirit. They ain't the Ghostbusters, but they do gotta patrol because they gotta do something, and they gotta make the community feel safe. But yeah, ever since then, suicide happens all the time around here, and
even still does to this day.
yeah. And like I said, if these people don't find their way, there's gonna be a lot more of that. But yeah, some cops won't admit it, some will. Some will say, I've been here for 20 years, I never seen nothing at night. But yeah, they have. So, much props to the ones that are brave enough to talk about it. Others, they just like to deny it.
By 2014, it was reported that there were at least 103 official suicide attempts on the reservation over a period of several months, although some claimed it was more like 240, and 9 of these between the ages of 12 and 14 actually succeeded. Many of these were carried out by hanging, and eerily it was claimed by Oglala Sioux Tribe Vice President Thomas Poorbear that there had been found nooses hung out in the wilds near a place called Porcupine, and that when authorities had gone to remove them, they had found that...
Yeah, just what it was last year. I mean, we have family in Porcupine, and one of our relatives actually hung themselves. So yeah, a lot of this stuff I can agree with. So yeah, I would say check out this guy's channel. I mean, very interesting. I mean, it's not an actual video. You more gotta listen to
that a
it.
group of teenagers had congregated there for the purpose of committing a mass suicide. Of course, according to them, Walking Sam had told them to do it. While many people of the area attribute all of this to a mysterious phantom interloper, there are others who see this as just a vestige of folklore intertwining with the rampant poverty and drug abuse seen on the reservation.
Yeah,
After all, this is one of the poorest areas of the nation, and more than 60% living below the poverty line, and many turning to drugs or alcohol to try and drown their sorrows. In addition, much of the badlands this region encompasses is wholly unsatisfactory for farming. There is little clean water, medical care is poor, and this might as well be a developing country situated right in the United States. In light of this, it seems that the suicide rate is bound to jump, as people with no way out make one for themselves. And indeed, the suicide rate for reservations such as this are well above the average. In this sense, perhaps the existence of Walking Sam may be a way to explain the reason for all of this misfortune. Mike Crowley had said of this, Walking Sam may be just one such explanation that resonates among some of the Lakota for teen suicides. It shouldn't distract the reader from the fact that people on the reservations are distraught. Whether Walking Sam represents Bigfoot, an evil spirit, or is just a manifestation of the fear that people have about losing their loved ones to what seems an incomprehensible type of event, the teen suicides are real. In the end, we're left to ponder just what it is that's going on here in this sparsely populated stretch of desolation. What sort of ancient spirit is stalking these lands? And does it have any connection to any phenomena reported elsewhere? Could this be skinwalkers, a ghost, a demon, or some other supernatural entity from lore? Or is this all just native superstitions, myth, and urban legend? There was really no way to know. But the people who have witnessed this dark stranger certainly seem to be convinced of what they have seen. Whether it is all real or not, one is left to wonder if this tall man with no face, this Walking Sam, is really out there wandering the wilderness of South Dakota. And if he is, just what he or it wants.
Okay. So that was the end of that story. There's like 5 stories out of it, so check it out. And also, leave in the comments what are some of you guys' folklore, your cultures, what are some ghost stories, because I'm interested to know, and I don't care if you type a long comment like a book, because I love reading it.
Oh yeah. And also, I have another story as well or two. I remember back when I was in elementary, that a friend of mine, good friend of mine, who's actually from the reservation where we come from, that's located in Martin, South Dakota, where he told us where he was sleeping in his basement, passed out, and yet all of a sudden, like when he woke up, like in the middle of the night, he said he saw like a dark, tall figure just like look from at the end, like at the side of his bed, like where he was, and he said that this thing grabbed onto his neck and like started strangling him, because he couldn't move, like he felt like it was like sleep paralysis,
Yeah.
where he couldn't move, but you could see it there, so he was trying to like get up and fight against it, but he couldn't, and eventually like when he came out of it, that's when he was able to fight it off, and also like ended up like eating it off. But when he got up, like there was nothing there. Like he woke up, like he was in a panic, and he told us it, and kind of like really spooked me out as well. And also like there was back in 2015, or late 2014, I believe, where a good friend of mine as well, who was also killed. Well, kind of but at this house where they were drinking, they were partying as well, and eventually he ended up getting killed. Like he was huffing gasoline, which was also a big problem on the reservation to this day. And yes, that's the sad reality about reservations, is that yes, children my age, which I was one of the lucky ones, which I had good guidance from my family, which kept me from doing that stuff. Which the sad reality is that a lot of Native kids out there have families that don't really love them, that neglect them, that even push them to do other things that they did, like party or even have children at a young age. And yes, that many of them do see suicide as a way out. They don't see any other way out. And yes, I am trying to actually help and encourage other Native Americans to even come up and even do better in school as well, because there's not really much natives out there who are willing to really much to succeed, or even have a good role model to have, such as I have. And like back to that story too with my friend, is that after when he was burnt to death, I would say, I believe it was like a few weeks. I think it was like a month after when we got there, after we had buried him, that we heard like loud, like we heard somebody saying something outside. Well, I didn't, but our uncle said that. So we went out there. I followed him, and turns out, my friend's uncle, who came over there to where the house was, because after when all that commotion happened, they burnt that house down and covered it with dirt. But he told us that they heard him yelling their names, yelling their names, and yet we went over there. We didn't hear nothing, but they said they did. And
I heard something, but I ignored it because I thought it was just somebody drunk rambling.
Yeah, because I didn't know what it was. I was watching TV during that day.
Yeah, that night there was a blue moon, and that's what one of the elders said. Spirits roam, and he's probably calling back on his relatives, want to take him with him. So we had to cleanse.
And also, like, I do believe that this whole man is probably still out there right now. And yes, I believe it was 2013 when that was actually a big thing. Like, I remember hearing on it on news, even on Facebook as well, when about different teens from Pine Ridge committing suicide. And it was all from being hanging themselves. And yet, it's, a lot of the kids there, they need really good role models there, though. Like, even some of the schools there aren't really good, though, and they're not really getting the good,
proper education they need.
Yes, and also the good guidance as well, though.
Yeah.
Even from their own parents, because yes, me, I don't drink, I don't smoke like the rest of them, I don't vape, I don't huff, I don't do any of that stuff. Which is probably the reason why I haven't seen any of these things. But it's probably a good thing, because if you see any of these things, you better start praying, or doing something, whatever you believe in. Start praying, because see, if you see any of these things, either the goat man, the tall man, or even the shadow person as well. Neither of them are even a good thing to see that you hope not to see. And yes, the tall man, I have heard of it as well when I was younger, and I've also heard from it from my great grandfather. Told me many stories about it. Told me what it was meant for, like how evil it was, too as well. How it took many kids. That it had like the story was from him is that he said that like when this tall man when he opened up his jacket, where you could see all
All
of the
the
Native
souls,
Americans.
yeah, that commit suicide.
Yeah, they were all hanging down like that by all the ropes that they hung themselves with. They were all hanging down on their arms, like right there, like little puppets. Made it look like one of those little old Western clothes.
Yeah, and he also, and that was during a ceremony in the sweat lodge, and that thing came in, and you just heard him leave with the evil demonic laugh. So yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of bravery and courage to make videos like this. I mean,
Oh
the
yeah.
Bigfoot video, I guess it didn't do that good. Some people didn't like it, but you know, there's always people out there willing and they're curious about supernatural stuff.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you gotta remember though, you believe in God, then there's the devil. They're opposite each other. Then what's in between that? Spirit world is just a thin vessel, man. Once it's ripped, we can see
But we could
a lot
probably
of
see
eerie things.
glimpses and stuff
Yeah.
too. Or even like how some people tell us that they see old people, people from like
From
the
different
1800s.
times. Yeah.
Like I remember one instance where out in the housing one time. Oh, the Sunrise housing where we came from was one of the stories of saying that this old man saw like an old fashioned like Native Americans
Yeah,
like
just walking.
And this was late in the morning. Like even in the morning,
Yeah.
and you're still tired, you can even catch a good glimpse like I did. Like I was walking, like I was going to like our local True Value in our town in Martin, and I was walking on Main Street, and yet I was still somewhat tired. I was still walking, and it was cold out. And I looked up, and I swear, like I saw a person, but this person was dressed in different clothes. I thought I was like, maybe hallucinating, maybe thinking that this person maybe has different clothes and stuff on. But it turns out, like after when I went in, this person stopped right there, like where the subway is. As soon as I came out, this person was still there. I started walking back, and as soon as I turned around, that person was gone. I guess it was like it was like a second as soon as I got out of the store and I turned around, the person was there. So I started walking about a good 5 feet, and I turned back around, see who it might have been. Maybe it might have been a friend of mine or somebody else. Turn around to see that person again, but there was nobody there, which kind of spooked me out as well, though.
All right, so let's stop that for now.